Welcome into another episode of Ravens Reports. It's your guy Noah here with For the Flock, as always, bringing y'all our top 5 news reports and storylines coming out of our Ravens today. And this is absurd. We got some very jarring stats, some details, some research on how the Baltimore Ravens are actually dominating their opponents in certain aspects of the game, but still finding themselves in the loss column. Starting off the season 0-2, former Baltimore Ravens wide receiver Tory Smith speaks out on this. We also got a big-time update, exciting update on Ravens' second-year running back Keaton Mitchell, who was a breakout star last year before having that knee hyperextension, torn ACL. We got our top areas of improvement, how this team can get back on track and actually be a legit playoff Super Bowl contending team, how they can get back on track for that. We got all that and more, so let's dive into the content. At number 1, I want to talk about one of the quickest ways the Baltimore Ravens can improve their lineup, improve their team, and their offense is with this guy right here. Roger Rosengarten, the rookie right tackle, showed massive improvement between week 1 to week 2. I'll show you some clips here. Some one-on-one reps with one of the best pass rushers in the NFL, and Max Crosby, where Rosengarten was holding his own out there and some solo blocks with an elite premier pass rusher. The rookie playing his second NFL game, holding it down against Max Crosby. Very impressive. Rosengarten actually had a 74.7, very impressive grade, even better than Tyler Linderbaum, the Pro Bowler, just behind Ronnie Stanley. And by the way, if you haven't noticed, Ronnie Stanley's playing dominant left tackle football again and is the third highest graded tackle with pass blocking in the National Football League this year. Out of 64 starting tackles, he's the third highest graded pass blocker. Ronnie Stanley's officially back and he's healthy. But Rosengarten, 74.7, the second highest pass blocking grade this last week against the Raiders. Patrick McCarry, however, did give up a sack and a hurry. Between Patrick McCarry and Daniel Falele, they are the ones that are consistently giving up the most sacks and pressures. But it's a great step from week 1 to week 2 for the rookie Rosengarten, who I think should go out and start. If anything, if you trust McCarry and you want him out there, put him at right guard next to Daniel Falele, who's really struggling. We'll talk about that later, but I want to see the Ravens start Ben Cleveland or McCarry, Josh Jones, pretty much any other option right now to see if we can have some improvement at the right guard position. Daniel Falele is really out of sorts there right now. And number 2, the Baltimore Ravens. They're dominating their opponents in certain aspects of the game. They dominated the Chiefs when it comes to time of possession, when it comes to yards. They outgained the Chiefs by 100 total yards, 452 compared to 353. They outgained the Raiders, 383 yards to 260. So over 123 more yards than the Raiders, 100 yards more than the Chiefs. Time of possession, they also have the same turnover rate, so they've given up as many turnovers as they forced, so they're not negative in that manner, yet the Baltimore Ravens are 0-2. I think the biggest reason for that comes down to this stat right here. The Ravens are 32nd in the National Football League in net penalties, so a -9, and they're also 32nd in net yards, negative 113 yards, so we talked about how the Ravens are outgaining their opponents in offense about 100 yards. Well, they're also losing 113 of those yards to their opponents, which is absolutely absurd. They're number 2 in yards against, 173. Number 3 in flags, 23 total flags. Number 3 in upheld calls against at 18. And penalties for, they're 31st, so they're not getting penalties called against the other team when they're playing either. They're 31st, man. And then number 31st in yards as well. So they're bottom of the barrel in every single category here almost. And this was actually something talked about when it was in the spotlight on week 1 against Kansas City. Multiple, analysts, people with millions of followings talk about how the Ravens were absolutely not being treated fairly when it comes to penalties. Illegal formation stuff that was called against Ronnie Stanley like 5-6 times, but it wasn't called one time for the Chiefs, even though they literally have tracking data in the pads that showed up that that showed that Ronnie Stanley was lining up in the same spot, if not closer, than what the Chiefs were doing. And then last week, you saw Matabike gets a sack, hits him right in the chest. They call a face mask, which ruined, absolutely bailed them out, let them score. They had a holding call on Ronnie Stanley that sprung Derrick Henry on a big run. They got called back, and then they would go to miss that field goal, 53-yard field goal, and stalled out the drive. They could have scored a touchdown there or been much closer in field goal range. By the way, Justin Tucker is the only kicker to miss a 50-yard field goal in the NFL this year. So, the NFL kickers are 35 for 37 and 50-plus yard field goals, and those two misses both came from Justin Tucker. So you throw in missed field goals and being at the bottom of the league in penalties against you and penalties for, it's really a recipe for disaster. But it's not like the talent and the production on the field isn't there. It's not like you're not outgaining your opponents. It's not like you're turning the ball over more than them. And that's why I just wanted to just say I think the Ravens will be good. I think they'll be just fine. Sooner or later, these penalties have to go the other way, right? Sooner or later, we got to make field goals. Sooner or later, we got to make better challenge decisions. Sooner or later, we got to put in a different rotation on the offensive line and have a little bit more protection to not have sacks in key moments of the game. I think Tory Smith says it well here. He says the Ravens are 0-2 and 2 possessions away from it potentially being reversed. If you split the season into 4 quarters, talking about how your first 4, your second 4, he says, with the extra bonus game, you will learn how to calm down. This is a good team that is simply making too many mistakes. Save your panic mode for a few weeks. And the NFL knows this. Like, you're looking at the betting realm, the Cowboys with Dak Prescott, CeeDee Lamb, Michael Parsons, being a playoff contender last year, being in the playoffs last year. They're playing at home. But they're still not favored to win. The Ravens are still favored to win that game despite going on the road and being 0-2. People know the Baltimore Ravens are still a good team that have just not found themselves in the win column yet. But I think that's going to change this week. There's going to be a desperation to come out of this game with a win to get the first win of the year. Call me a fool. Maybe I come out here and say the Ravens are going to beat the Cowboys on the road. I really do believe that, but I just do. That's how I feel about the Ravens, man. I think they're a good team, and we still got Lamar Jackson. We still got Roquan Smith, Kyle Hamilton, Zay Flowers, Mark Andrews, likely. We're going to find a way to win some of these games here soon, and I think it starts with the Cowboys. At number 3, big-time good news here for Keaton Mitchell, who posted on Twitter that he's running 20 miles per hour again. Now, I don't know what that means as far as how close he is to returning, but I do know as an athlete, if you're running 20 miles per hour, you got to be trending towards the right direction, right? You got to be getting closer. John Harbaugh said a few months ago that he expected Keaton Mitchell to be mid-season / back half of the season, maybe November, December timeframe. I don't want to see Keaton rush back, but I think it's awesome that he's already running 20 miles per hour. So maybe that means that he could come back a little bit sooner than we originally anticipated. But like I said, I'm not trying to rush it or anything, but it would be fun. Just saying, another weapon. I mean, Keaton Mitchell is a legit weapon. I mean, the guy was ripping off 30, 50-yard touchdowns, just a stick of dynamite with the ball in his hands, making guys miss, breaking away, hitting the seams, outside runs, inside runs, pass catching as well. So Keaton Mitchell and Derrick Henry, if utilized properly, could really cause issues for defenses. So good news there that Keaton Mitchell running 20 miles per hour again. Good progress there in his recovery. At number 4, let's talk about some areas of improvement. All right, specifically the pass defense. The secondary is too inconsistent right now. They're talented. They got Marlon Humphrey. They got Brandon Stevens, who had a monster year last year. They have Nate Wiggins going to be coming back from that neck injury after that car crash during the week last week. Marcus Williams and Kyle Hamilton are really talented safeties, but the guys aren't playing to the best of their abilities right now. Kyle Hamilton doesn't quite look the same. I've seen some stuff on social media that he might be dealing with an undisclosed injury. Marcus Williams, same thing with him. I don't feel like he's playing his best football. Marlon Humphrey, he's made some plays, but he's also given up some catches. And Brandon Stevens gave up a lot of yards to Devontae Adams last week. And of course, there was that one pass interference call that was bogus. It was not pass interference. Davante Adams was grabbing him the same, if not harder, than Stevens was grabbing him. But again, the Raiders were bailed out by the refs, and they score. That's been a common theme and a reason why the Ravens are losing these games. But nonetheless, the secondary has to be better. Giving up 100 plus to Davante Adams is not acceptable with the type of secondary that we have. I know he's an elite receiver, but we've seen this secondary clamp down elite receivers before, like Amon-Ra St. Brown, like Jamar Chase, and other guys that have been limited. The secondary is very talented. They should, especially with the way the pass rush is getting after it right now. Odafe always break out, Matabike and Travis Jones getting after it on the inside. The secondary has to be better. So check this out. Their run defense is number 1 in yards per attempt, number 1 in total yards in the NFL. They've only given up 99 rushing yards over 2 weeks. That's really, really impressive. That's elite. But their pass defense, not elite. 26 in yards per attempt, 7 yards per attempt. That's horrendous. 32nd in the NFL, dead last in total yards, 514. We're stopping the run, but we are not stopping the pass. It's got to get better because we've given up, 290 yards to Patrick Mahomes, 250 plus to Gardner Minshew, and it's just got to be better, especially when it comes to having leads. We're up 10 with a few minutes left to go in the fourth quarter, and we allow a team to get back into it because the pass defense gives up big chunks, and it's got to be better. Marlon Humphrey had 5 targets, only 3 receptions allowed, 11 yards, 1 touchdown, though. So he gave up the touchdown, but only 11 total yards. He also had the interception that game. And Brennan Stevens, this is where it got a little bit dicey. He had 4 targets, allowing 3 receptions for 85 yards. And the one time Brennan Stevens was in coverage, it was just dropped right in the bucket, back shoulder ball for Davante Adams. He was in tight coverage down the sideline, and I'm not mad at Brennan Stevens for that. Maybe could have got his head around and, made a play on the football, but tight coverage on an elite NFL receiver, just sometimes offenses make plays, and Davante Adams is Davante Adams for a reason. But Brennan Stevens gives up 85 total yards, 3 first downs. However, we just got to cut down on some of these big plays, and I'm excited to see Nate Wiggins back there in the secondary. I hope that he's ready to go this week against the Cowboys, because the Cowboys, they're a passing team. They're going to want to get the ball to CeeDee Lamb and Jake Ferguson if he's ready to go. At number 5, let's talk about the top performing Ravens in week 2 according to PFF. Ronnie Stanley on offense was our best performer, 81.6 total grade. If you guys noticed, some of the biggest and best runs from Derrick Henry were on the left side. No surprise there with Linderbaum coming out in space, Ronnie Stanley, Voorhees. The right side, however, we're not getting much production in the run game. But Ronnie Stanley in 81.6, he looks like he's back, man. He really does. He looks close to, that 2019 version where he was an all-pro. I mean, he's right now, when it comes to pass protection, he's the 3rd best tackle in the NFL. Running back Derrick Henry, he was breaking tackles. He's running hard. He looked explosive. Derrick Henry also had that catch out of the backfield, slipped the tackle. The guy couldn't bring him down, and picked up 12 yards from Lamar. And then tight end Mark Andrews had himself a nice game. He's going to be rounding into form. He's going to be a big-time weapon. Don't worry about Mark Andrews. 73.7. Quarterback Lamar Jackson, 73.2. Zay Flowers is 71. So offense, man, is they're doing the thing. They're having their production. We got to get better on some of these inconsistent pass blocking reps where we give up a big sack in a big moment of the game, or we just lose yards on a run, like multiple rushes of like -2, because we're getting blown up in the backfield due to poor offensive line play on the right side. It's got to get better, and I think that needs to come in way of personnel change. On the defensive side of the ball, shout out to Odafe Owe. We're going to talk about him in another video upcoming, so make sure you guys are ready. Have the subscribe notification bell on, because Odafe Owe, he's here. We talked about how he was top 10 last year in pass rush win rate, but didn't finish on all the sacks. Well, he just got 2.5 sacks against the Raiders. 87.8 PFF grade. Explosive hands We heard about it all training camp that he was just blowing up plays single-handedly to the point where John Harbaugh told Oweh, bro, chill out. Let's let the offense make some plays here because you're going too hard. You're ruining everything. And that's what he was doing against the Raiders. Travis Jones, dude, Travis Jones looks good, man. Travis Jones looks good in the run game, in pass defense as a rusher. He's so strong, and he's also starting to incorporate some pass rushing techniques. I saw him do like a double arm swipe on the guard, threw him out of the way, and blew up the running back. I love me some Travis Jones. Him and Michael Pierce, Matabike, Brody. By the way, the Ravens also signed Chris Wormley, former Raven and former Pittsburgh Steeler, on the practice squad. They got Brent Urban. The defensive line looks really good as a whole. Outside linebacker Kyle Van Noy gets in on the sack action 1 week after he fractured his orbital bone, and he looks good. Kyle Hamilton, 70.7, and then Roquan Smith, 69.3, the top defenders. So the Ravens are not at a lack of talent. The Ravens are getting in the way of themselves with penalties, mistakes, some poor coaching decisions. They'll be fine. Let me know what you guys think about all that in the comments section below, the top things we can instantly improve on. As always, man, hit the like button if you enjoyed today's content. I love y'all. I appreciate y'all, and we'll see you in the next video.
When he wasn't looking, he ran me over.